there tonight in somebody else's bed. What is going on? Like, you have an accomplice? Like, hi guys, it's Brittany again. Today I felt like, you know, doing a video in my car because I love driving, so I drove around for like, I don't even know how long, probably about an hour now. Just because I was bored with nothing else to do. So I am going to be talking about how my house got broken into. Really what had happened was I stayed up really late, I mean for me at that time, because I had to be up early in the morning to go to work. So I stayed up really late because I couldn't sleep. It must have been too hot or something in my room. I can't remember exactly why I couldn't sleep, or maybe I was just all in my head and I just, you know, couldn't get out of my own head, so, you know, I couldn't sleep. I fell asleep at like midnight, 12:30, something like that. After that, then I was like woken up by something, like a noise at my window, and it sounded like kind of like clawing or, you know, scratching on my window, and I was like, that's weird. I've never had that before, you know, there's no like tree branches near my window, so it's not like it can just scratch up against the window. So I thought it was weird. So I like, you know, I was groggy, you know, at this point when I woke up, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and I sat up in bed and, you know, opened the curtains a little bit to see what was going on. And all I seen was this just black silhouette of somebody with their hood up, and they were just wearing all this black, and I couldn't see anything except for this silhouette. And so in that moment I was pissed because, you know, I was just infuriated that somebody was waking me up after like an hour and a half of me sleeping. So when I opened the curtain and stuff and I seen that person, I sat up and I just like said, I was just like, what the F are you doing? Like, you know, I mean, now that I look back at it, it was funny as heck because, you know, it's just really funny. Like, I said that and they just like freaked out and they bolted off and just like left. So I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I realized what was actually going on. At the time I thought it was, you know, maybe like one of my friends or that was just trying to like be weird and like spook me or something. But I seriously realized that it was somebody trying to break into my house. And I was just like, what the heck just happened? Like, why did this person run off? I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, 2 and 2 together. It's someone trying to break into my freaking room, you know? I like freaked out. And then like I kept looking outside. I'm like, what the heck? Where'd they go, you know? So I'm looking around and they like bolted up the street, and literally up the street because I live on a hill. So after that, I like looked down the street to see if there, you know, because I seen movement over down the street. And it was a kid, another kid on a bike, and he was like riding his bike up the street looking at the person who just ran away and was like laughing. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, you have an accomplice? Like, what? So what happened after that, I freaked out, you know, got out of bed, put some clothes on real quick, went up to my parents' room, and I was just like, guys, I think somebody just tried to break into the house. I think somebody just tried to break into the room. And so my parents were like, oh my gosh, like, did you call the cops? And I was like, no, I haven't, not yet. And they were like, oh, well, do that, you know, get the cops over here as soon as possible. Did the person run off? Like, what happened? And I was like, I said, what the F? And they ran off. You know, at this time I'm like hysterical because I'm just like freaking out. I've never had this happen before. You know, I call the cops and I'm like freaking out. And I'm like, hey, somebody just tried to break into my house. Please send a police officer over immediately. Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, you know, I gave them my address. And then they showed up within 5 minutes. Not even kidding. Like, they were there, like right on the freaking dot. And so he shows up and stuff, and, you know, I go out and I was telling him what had happened. I was like, you know, all this stuff happened or whatever. I'm like, they ran off that way, but who knows, because, so we live on a cul-de-sac. And at the top, there's like a empty space, you know, which is weird because it's like the whole freaking street is filled with houses except for this empty space that leads to a main road. So this empty space, field, whatever, a lot of teenagers, kids, whatever, they like to walk up our street to get to that main road, and so that they can, you know, get to the sidewalk up there, which is horrible for us. After the cop showed up, I explained everything to him, and he started questioning about who it might be, and he started asking about our neighbors. And so I was like, okay, you know, and the story with these neighbors, it goes long. there's a lot of things that happened with these neighbors. They were nice and everything, but the kids. Okay, so he asked about the neighbors and stuff, and we told them that, you know, they had moved like a couple months ago or whatever, and that, you know, they haven't lived there in a while. And they were like, well, have you ever thought about it might be this person? And I was like, I doubt it. I'm like, you know, this person wasn't really at our house all that much. So if they were trying to break in to maybe steal something and get some money for it or whatever, then it, you know, I mean, it's possible, but I doubt it. So, you know, and then he's like, well, what about this other person? And I was like, possibly that one too, because he was not all right in his head either. But, you know, yeah. So narrowed it down to 2 people, I guess. But the cop was just like, all right, if it happens again, give us a call. You know, don't scare them off this time, but, you know, give us a call and then we will show up right on the spot. And I was like, all right, cool. So then, you know, everything's whatever, you know, the cop leaves, we go back to bed. I closed my window, and might I say, so how they broke in was they cracked my window. So I had my window cracked about this much, about like 1.5 to 2 inches. So this person had pushed against the screen to slide it open, to gradually like work the way of the window to be open. And so they worked it all the way open. Like, this is one of those sliding, you know, sliding ones that move this way type of thing. And it was a pretty big window. I'm like, that thing is heavy for me to even move like normally. I'm like, so this person had to be there for a while trying to inch it back, you know, all the way. And so they did that. And after they got the window all the way back, they were fiddling with the screen, trying to get the screen off and trying to, you know, get the screen off without breaking anything. Because they could have easily just freaking punched it and, you know, it would have fallen out. But they decided not to. So I don't know what their intentions were, but, you know, yeah. So when they were fiddling with it, that's what woke me up. And so, you know, when I went to bed, I had closed the window completely, which sucked because it was hot. You know, it was summertime, and, you know, the house doesn't have air conditioning. It just has, you know, swamp cooler, so my room doesn't get very cold. So I constantly had freaking fans going. I had the window cracked. I had, you know, everything, my door wide open just so I can, you know, breathe, so that it would, you know, draw the cold air in. And then that goes on, whatever. I fall back to sleep. I wake up in the morning and my brother's like beating on my door, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I just chased our neighbor. And I was like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I seen a bike by the fence, you know, of our house or whatever. There's no house next to us, so it's, you know, obviously our fence, because there's no house. It's just a field right there. They had left their bike or whatever against the fence, and he's like, so I was curious and I walked up to it. When I walked up to it, I heard noises coming from beyond the fence, which, you know, beyond the fence is my brother's old Blazer. He heard that. He heard them moving and scuffling about in the backyard. He immediately grabbed the bike, picked it up, and chucked it over the fence, because he figured, you know, if they don't have an easy way out, like they can't just hop the fence, grab their bike, and take off, you know, because then my brother wouldn't be able to, you know, confront them. He was just like, okay, you know, chucking this over, this is our bike now, you know. And so then after that, whatever, after he chucked it, then he heard more scuffling in the Blazer. And he was just like, you know, my brother was like, if you don't come out now, I'm gonna call the cops. I know you're back there, you know, speak up or whatever, you know, I'm coming back there. I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna get you, blah, 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 you know, all this stuff. So my brother had started climbing the fence, and like as he was climbing the fence, he could like see that there was a person getting out of the Blazer at this point, and the kid gets out, you know, and like runs to the back of our backyard, you know, where there's like another house on the other side of our fence in the backyard. So he darts back there and then like hops the fence into our backyard neighbor's yard, and then hops their fence again to get onto the next street over. And so when he did that or whatever, my brother jumped in his car and took off and like went to the other street, ended up parking his car on the side of the street because the kid had started taking like a bike path to run. And so my brother parked his car and then jumped out and then like chased the kid down and tackled him to the ground, found out that it was our neighbor, the neighbor kid, one of them, you know, who was accused by the cop. He told him, he's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you in our backyard? Why are you in my truck? You know, why are you in here? And so the kid was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And, you know, he just kept apologizing or whatever. And my brother's like, you ever come back around here again, you're dead. You get anywhere near my family, I'm calling the police and you're going to jail. That's that. Don't ever come around here again. You don't live here, leave. Like, you don't live on the street anymore. You have no reason to be on the street, so leave and never come back. And scare the crap out of the kid. So from, you know, scaring him or whatever, after that we hadn't heard from him. We haven't seen that guy anymore, like any of that. But yeah, so pretty sure, putting 2 and 2 together, pretty sure it was my neighbor who was trying to break into my room. So now this is my theory on that. With my neighbor, they had lived across the street. And the entire time that they had lived there, my brother's room was my room that I was in at that time of the break-in. So when my brother and I, like after they had moved out, me and my brother had moved rooms. So I had moved into his and he had moved into the basement. So because the fact that I was in his room and my brother wasn't home at that time, the neighbor must have thought that my brother wasn't home. So he could sneak in and possibly sleep in my brother's bed or something since my brother wasn't home. Like, maybe he had been scouting the place and maybe he had known that my brother was on graveyard shifts or something and he was trying to, like, you know, figure out a perfect time to do it. So he, like, seen that my brother's car wasn't there, then finally was like, here's my chance, you know? So then he tried to break in, and then needless to say, I was in there because it was my room now. He freaked out and like ran off. That would explain everything. You know, it would make so much sense that it was that case. Now, after we had spoken to the police and stuff, I had reached out to his parents and I was like, hey, what's the story on him? And they're just like, oh, we kicked him out. We kicked him out like a week or so ago because he wasn't following our rules. So we kicked him out. He refused to, you know, follow those rules, so they kicked him out, and he was trying to seek shelter. I would assume either that or worst case, he was trying to break in so that he could steal my brother's video game stuff or anything in his room to try to go out and sell it and get money for who knows what. That's worst case. I like to think it was more towards just trying to seek shelter, which is still not right. You know, you can't just break into somebody's house and be like, I'm gonna sleep here tonight in somebody else's bed, and they're not gonna care because they'll never know, you know? It's like, come on, like, how stupid can you be? Like, you're gonna break into somebody's house just to sleep? Like, come on, like, you don't have friends? Like, obviously you had a friend. You had a friend last night. Like, there was a friend, you know, standing there, like, on his bike, you know, he's watching you the whole time. Like, you can't stay at his house? Maybe his time, like, ran out or something, and he was just like, okay, like, I'm gonna sleep here now because your parents won't let me sleep with you guys anymore. So yeah, but that's my story of how my neighbor broke into my house. So ever since then, I bought a gun in case it happened again, and then I could, you know, be like, get the heck away, you know, stay away type of thing if it was to happen again. But needless to say, it has never, you know, happened again, luckily. So we don't, you know, don't have to worry about that. And since then, you know, I've moved out of my parents. So there's that. Hope you enjoyed my story time today. Yeah, so if you want more story times, then let me know down below. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you feel like it, and be generous and nice because I only have like 3 subscribers. So, okay. Bye.